everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Joyasonyelive this evening. Well, we're still talking about the fuel subsidy. Several political parties among the 18 in Nigeria had supported the removal of fuel subsidy during campaigns in the build-up of the general elections. The African Action Congress was not one of them. According to the ACC, the rot in the petroleum industry could have been salvaged without inflicting pain on Nigerians. We'll be going to that, especially as the ACC had commended, AAC had commended the NLC and other pressure groups that had earlier now decided to go on strike. What is their thoughts now that that strike action has been suspended? That's all we'll be discussing on Joyasonyelive this evening. And we have Ina Okopi-Agu, the Secretary General, African Action Congress, with us in the studio today. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you, Joy. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. At this moment, we'll just go for a very short break and return to go in depth into the story, the interview, actually. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Like I said earlier, we have in the studio Ina Okopi-Agu, the Secretary General, African Action Congress, with us. Let's just go straight to the matter at hand. I mean, you had said, I mean, your political party would rather fix the rot in the system. But do you think it is overwhelming, like we have seen over the years? Successive governments have been unable to put their feet down and fix that rot per se. Do you think your political party could have done it? Your presidential candidate, if he had emerged president, would have been able to fix it?
Absolutely. I think the whole thing about fuel subsidy is a scam. We made that abundantly clear in the course of the campaign. We've constantly said it. From 2019, when we had the first run, we made it plain that the fuel subsidy regime needs to be taken care of. Not taken care of in the way they're doing it now by removing subsidy. Our opinion, and we know this as a fact, that the corruption around that subsidy regime is humongous, and we've had government after government without the, I don't want to use the word on air, the audacity to challenge the people who are milking us dry. Every time you hear fuel subsidy, it is Nigeria as a country subsidizing the rich. That's what's happening. The people who are the beneficiary of this fuel subsidy are the rich people, the people with the license to trade in petroleum products in this country.
Okay.
Those are the primary people you're subsidizing. And the thing is that PMS goes to the heart. If you touch PMS, you touch the heart of the most common Nigeria, wherever they may be. Anytime you touch it, prices of products in the market will jump because you need to be transported. And so when you ask the question whether we would have been able to do it, of course we would have been able to do it.
Are there strategies you would like to share?
I will say that right now.
Because first of all, you need to bear in mind that the customs, I was listening to a security expert talk about our borders. The customs cannot even man our borders properly. It is porous. That is as a matter of fact. However, we have not had security agents really man that. At the moment, we do not have a proper data or statistics of what Nigeria consumes.
No, they're bandying a figure around. Let me talk to you about it.
Right.
The head of the NMPC was in the news where he said that we consume 62 million liters daily.
Exactly.
Out of this figure, he said 20 million is stolen across our borders daily. But then this is the twist to it. The head of the Nigerian customs came and said, even that figure, the bandit, can't be true. So there's a problem. If two major government agencies are coming and conflicting each other, then something is wrong. And so what we know is this. I'll tell you a short story. I did a project somewhere in Benin Republic, inside Benin Republic. Our guide during that project was a Canadian-trained Beninois. He told us something really shocking. He said, the official arrangement to get petroleum product with this country was entered with Algeria, not Nigeria. That is the next door border, the border to them. All they needed to do for Nigeria is just run the pipe down and put metering skid and check how much you consume and pay us. But because of their French arrangement, they had to go to Algeria to truck the product all the way to their country. So it makes it really expensive for them to be able to buy from the filling station.
Right.
But do they lack fuel? No.
Of course not.
If you go into Benin Republic, you see them selling in cans. All those fuel were fuel subsidized for Nigerians and smuggled across the border. Now, there's no way you can do this smuggling without men in the customs service being aware of it, people in the immigrations, people who man our borders. They must know how these things find their way into Benin.
Okay.
Sometime in December, in the course of the whole campaign, I don't know if it's December or January, there was this news piece where it was all over social media. A certain custom operative around Adamawa State, trucks of PMS or so were headed to Cameroon, and they wanted to pass. The guy said, for what? That I can't let you pass. This fuel was actually subsidized for Nigerians. Why are you taking it out?
Right.
All the big men, according to him, were calling him. I am aware. I was with my chairman, Oyedepo, when he was telling me that the boy's family contacted him. Now, the last we heard of the boy was that he was picked up by the agency that sent him there and detained. And detained for doing the right thing. For doing the right thing.
That tells you the kind of what in the system.
It will tell you that what you need to fix, if custom is conflicting what NNPC is saying, what it means is that there's a problem around the figure. We'll come to other issues. You asked of strategy. If that is the problem, then there's something you need to fix, isn't it? Now, if the figure, one says 62, then 20 is stolen, and the other person who is supposed to check the border says it is not possible, then there's corruption somewhere. What you need to tackle is the corruption. And I'm sure that by the time they are able to tackle corruption around it, you would find out that the quantity they claim that we consume daily is not actually it. Then it won't be a problem to pay subsidy for Nigerians to enjoy the dividends of this thing. If you reduce the quantity to a reasonable amount, then paying subsidy won't be a problem. Now, if we remove subsidy,
but also the fear of the scarcity that would happen in Nigeria, because these are people who over the years have been making a certain amount of money. I don't see them having the sympathy for Nigeria enough to say, okay, this amount has been subsidized. Let me let me leave it for the country.
No. Let me tell you, you didn't seem to get it. There is no 62 million anywhere.
There isn't.
Yes. So if you check the corruption, block our borders, make sure it is controlled, then you will find that maybe the figure comes to like 10 million liters. How much is the subsidy? Assuming it is 10 million liters, how much is the subsidy that you cannot accommodate within our budget?
You just shared a very sad story of how deep this corruption
that is
can
why
get.
You need to tackle corruption and leave subsidy alone. If we remove subsidy, Nigeria will be the only country, one, that is an oil producer and yet has no subsidy on the product for Nigerians to enjoy. So all these lies, the bandy around that if you remove it, this will happen, it's all lies. Why are our refineries not working? Let me explain something to you. The oil you use, the fuel I put in my car to come here today, I bought 1 liter for 537 naira per liter at a total filling station, right? Now that particular quantity, I had to buy so much to be able to fill my tank. That's one. Imagine the reason that price is like that. Crude that's supposed to be refined either in Warri,
right,
Kaduna, or Port Harcourt is having to be taken abroad. That's one, because there's an allocation to NNPC daily to refine. Consider the cost of taking it abroad to refine. Consider the extra cost of bringing it back as consider one, the insurance on the product, so that if it goes down in the seas, Nigeria will have to pay for all those insurance. That is one. You also, when you get to the port, there is also other charges you pay. Now think of the cost of transporting that same fuel from the port to Kaduna, from the port to Abuja. All those incremental costs are what is adding to what you have today. It shouldn't be this expensive. The question is, why are our refineries not working? One would have expected when President Tinubu was inaugurated, we expected for him to go after the corrupt thieves in that sector. Give us a timeline for which you are going to fix the refineries. And then get experts who know how to do these things to revamp these refineries so they can begin to work. So that everything you consume in this country is refined here. And then you will find out, Joy, that the amount you need to pay for subsidy shouldn't be that high. They are complaining because I heard it's around $10 billion or so dollars. If you do the complete thing and then check corrupt officials, ensure that our fuel does not go across the border, maybe we'll be paying something like maybe $1 billion on subsidy, which is not bad.
Which wouldn't be bad.
It wouldn't be bad because
everybody agrees.
The reason we're complaining now is because the government is complaining, saying the amount is too much to pay. No, the amount is too much because people are stealing it. There were stories in the papers just when there was that 2012 campaign in Lagos. There were stories reported by, I think, Sahara reporters or so, I can't remember now, that a ship that had sunk 20 years earlier was presented as bringing fuel into the country and drawing down subsidy. It was everywhere. That is corruption. How did you get that? Where you can't do it. So I like what the former emir of Kano said. If NNPC wants to pay, like they said, they are still owing them, let us have the details of the insurance paid, where the ship berthed, when it offloaded. When you begin to dig into these details, you will find out that there's a rot there. Now, the reason people just feel that they can do anything in this country and get away is because there's no consequences for their actions. If you pick 1, 2, 3 people, secure them somewhere, investigate them properly, pick them up, put them on trial, and ensure that they are punished, irrespective of their status in the society, right? People will desist, or it will bring it down to a minimal level. That is why things are the way they are. Now, we have other solutions as we go along. I'm going to be able to outline what could be done to, if you must pay subsidy, which is an easy thing to do. There are things you could do, very easy, but we're not prepared to do the right thing. Instead, you're taking decisions that are hurting people, and now I heard the strike has been called off.
We'll get to the strike that's been called off, but would you say that it is obvious that the anti-graft agencies in Nigeria, security agencies, seem to be all in this together? That is why successive governments have not been able to really clamp down on those taking our refined products out of the country.
I will put the blame at the doorstep of one, the leaders, the president. I mean, the last president that just left was not just president, he was the minister of petroleum. You cannot tell me that he does not have all this information.
Which one?
Taking our fuel across the border, drawing subsidy that you cannot provide.
62 million liters.
If I was president, I'm sure that if it was Shoreda was president, You come out and then you say 62, and then an agency of government is saying it is not up to 62. The two of you will explain what you mean. And you will do it well and quickly so. And then anybody you catch, treat them like scapegoat. And then we can begin to have sanity around that system. But like, let it not be lost on all of us. At the level of the African Action Congress, we do not think, and it should not be removed. I think they should return. We are emphatic about it. Return subsidy, so you don't punish Nigerians for the sin of a handful of people, which is what we're doing. We're paying for their sins because government does not have the guts to go after the people doing this. I mean, I remember, I've heard it said, even during that regime, before the 2012, that certain people were convicted at the level of the High Court. But these same people went to the appellate court and the case was vacated.
Right.
In this country.
And that is what's been going on in several sectors.
So people everybody just feels like Nigeria, you can just come and do anything and get away. We need to build our system to the point where our country, Joy, is a country of laws. It should not be a country of laws. It is a country of laws. That's why we have a constitution. But we're not applying it. If you apply it, certain things that would go on to just people would just feel like they do anything and get away, it will stop. And then we would have people, everybody, no matter who you are in this country, you have a right to expect a fair deal from your government.
That's true.
We are at the receiving end of all these their evil actions against the people. At the level of the AAC, we think that it should be reversed immediately, whether NLC called us strike or not. I would use some words, and I hope I don't hurt your station. We think the decision to remove it was thoughtless. It shouldn't have happened. People are suffering. Minimum wage is 30,000. It's costing me close to 30,000 to fill my tank. So what do we do?
You're right. However, as an opposition party,
correct.
You know, when the PIA was signed, Nigerians seem to have applauded the President Muhammad Buhari at the time for signing the PIA. We thought this would bring that sanity necessary in the petroleum sector. And if you read through the PIA, you also know that the NNPC was supposed to become a limited liability company. The sector is supposed to now be deregulated and all of that. Was there any sort of petition? I mean, there were town hall meetings way before the PIB became an act. What did the AAC do anything to lead government or to bring this what you're saying now? Because it's been a long time coming.
I know. Let me say this. When a government is insincere, they can do all the town hall meetings. But once they are determined about how they want to go about something, they just do it. If you like, do all the protests.
Did you attend any though?
I didn't. I don't think we were invited. Or even if it was public this thing, we didn't attend. But what I'm saying is that even if we were present, I'm sure there were people who challenged some of the positions of that bill before it became law. Did they stop them? If they have set their sight on achieving a certain goals, most government who do not have the sensitivity to even recognize that people could suffer because of a law, they just go ahead and do it. Now, imagine when one senator was going to push for a law to criminalize certain things you do on social media. We were at the forefront of it. We said, no, it will not happen. Because that social media bill was going to stifle free speech. And we said, no. We stood out. And I'm sure if you have listened to my chairman, Shora, you would understand. His position is, and the position of the party is, let people enjoy subsidy. There's nothing wrong with that. Even in America, where all these people run to, they still subsidize not just petrol now, because I know they do. They also subsidize things like wheat because they know there are people like flour to make bread. There's nothing wrong with subsidy. But if you let them use all their PR to confuse you, they will make it look like, oh, if you remove subsidy, Nigeria will go from third world to first world. Haba. When the actual problem is corruption, catch these subsidy thieves and put them on trial. Put them on trial. I'm going to say some things.
Feel free, just as long as you will not abuse somebody who is not here to defend himself.
My position, if you ask me personally, not the AAC now, when you do that, you set up a special tribunal. These people are hurting our economy. When you catch them, one of the sentencing guidelines of that tribunal should be life imprisonment or the death sentence, like they would have done in China. If you do that and they say that the punishment is stringent, people who do this thing, I mean, they are the people who now walk around and they are carried around with sirens and all that, at the detriment of us, the people. I mean, the subsidy was supposed to help us. But hear what the NMC man said. Once they steal the petrol from here and take it, if a marketer carries it from Lagos to, say, Sokoto, the highest profit you can make, from what I think he said on TV the other day, was 250,000.
Yes, but however, if you take it across,
you get millions. So it was. We should also look at the DPR and question them. I have been to border towns in this country. I will not mention the towns, but when you go there, you see a little town with 10, 20 filling station, because it's a border town. When if you do the head count of anybody, or the people who have cars there, they won't be up to 50 cars, but you have 10, 20 filling station. Why do you approve that? We know the reason. They use that as the tool now to get the fuel with the pretext that they are taking it to that place to sell, and they drive it across the border. So DPR must also be questioned. Stop issuing licenses. If there's a need, withdraw licenses of anybody who engage in that criminal practice.
Would it be stifling business?
No, it's not stifling business, it's controlling corruption. No, I disagree. It's not stifling business, because what they are doing is making life difficult for everybody. I know a place where I go to do clerical works somewhere in Abuja here. I went there yesterday, they were just seated. I said, you guys are not open. They said the fuel, they don't know the profit they make if they buy fuel at 530 something to come and use to do photocopy for people. You are stifling business. Your action has led government to go on a policy route that is hurting people. So if you do that, hospitals in this country are not able to operate because they don't have the money, the amount to be able to fuel their generator if they use petrol. So a lot needs to be done. I will reiterate what government ought to have done, and should do that because it is not too late, is go after the thieves. Audit the process. Everything surrounding the subsidy regime should be audited. If you catch anybody, put them on trial.
Put them on trial?
Yes.
Do you trust the judicial system that much? Because it's like a there's a ripple effect to these things. The institutions that have to be in place to see this sanity cuts across several. It's like a deck of cards, really.
That's
so
true.
What do you do? Is it the judicial? Do you trust in the judicial system enough to say we would see punitive measures meted on those who are culpable? Do you see the Nigerian security agencies indeed actually are making this necessary arrest? Do you see whistleblowers? Do you see Nigerians also saying that I actually saw this truck pass here, I'm a witness to it, and so yes, let the right thing be done?
Yes.
There's a long list, a chain of institutions and people who would need to do the right thing.
Joy, you asked about the judiciary. In every sector there are bad eggs, and because the Constitution envisage that there will be people who will willfully break the law, that's why you have another agency to monitor them. I know the Nigerian Judicial Council, they are no nonsense. You behave anyhow, you see your own. I know they've punished a few judges. If you know corrupt judges within the system, fish them out. If you know them, don't spare anybody.
Right.
So I think that I would not look at what some judges do and just throw away the entire Nigerian judicial system. At least my party is a beneficiary of a brilliant judgment by one of those judges.
Which of them?
I won't mention his
name.
I
would love to know though. I mean the judgment, not necessarily.
Our party was stolen by a few people with the assistance of the state, and they hijacked it for like 3 years. We went to court. At the appeal court, they gave a brilliant judgment. And there's another judge again, the same person we defeated at the appeal court, went to the Supreme Court, withdrew the case because he saw that there was no way there, took the same matter that was determined by the appellate court, went back to the High Court to try and relitigate. One brilliant judge looked at it and said it's a waste of the court's time and dealt with him. So there are judges.
Right.
You just need to find them, put them in charge. If it is possible, because this is hurting us real bad,
it is.
Set up a special tribunal to take care of these dealings around the oil industry. Once you're able to do that, consider other alternatives to petrol, the CNG. I mean, we have natural gas everywhere.
We even had a gas plant. Whatever happened to that plant?
No, it's still on course. That's where you have the LNG. I know there are other trains still coming up around the LNG.
We're supposed to even have vehicles that run on gas.
That's a CNG.
Right.
When you see some of these massive trucks, these heavy-duty trucks, you see some green pipes, cylinder-like attached to them. That's the CNG. This conversion is not a difficult thing. I'm an engineer, so it's not a difficult thing. When during the last subsidy protest in Lagos, one of the promises made by President Jonathan was to fast track the conversion from petrol to CNG.
I'm surprised you say it's still on course. I've not seen any gas plant that is dissenting to vehicles. I've not seen that conversion plant.
I saw one in Port Harcourt. There are vehicles running on it, but mostly articulated vehicles, the heavy trucks. But what we're saying is we need to build a lot of infrastructure, which is not happening. But Joy, get our refineries to work. It is a shame that we have oil underneath, and then we don't have the refineries.
We don't even have working modular refineries. That should even have settled the states.
And then we're now celebrating the one that one man built. And I'm looking at also the investment by NNPC into that particular entity. That should have been enough to start our own and build
or revamp our own.
Revamp our own. But what has happened to all the turnaround things? So there's a lot that needs to be done. People, even if they are in retirement, find them so that they can explain what happened when they were in charge. Once you can cure corruption or bring it to a barest minimum, we'll sanitize the industry, our refineries will work, and then we're able to pay subsidy on whatever. Now, let me also say, I don't know if we still have some time. Let me outline something. You know the DPR, Joy?
It's not the NUPCR.
Okay, I don't know, maybe after they recalibrated the NUPC.
Yes, exactly.
That particular agency is responsible for registering people who do all businesses, especially the downstream, all these filling stations you see around. They register them. They allocate you to a space. That means it is possible for you to get into the DPR if they are serious. You have a screen like this with a dot representing or codes representing where each filling station is located across the country. When you take fuel from a depot, I'm looking at a future where you don't need to import it. You go to say Kaduna, you pick fuel. If you carry the fuel the trucks are properly tracked and monitored from DPR, is it not possible to get this product to the filling station and only pay subsidy based on what is dispensed at the pumps, not what is claimed to have been produced or what is brought into the ports? Do you understand? Make it in such a way that if you remove that incentive where they come and claim that they brought 1 million liters of PMS and you get paid subsidy on 1 million liters, let that 1 million liter find a way to sell it to a filling station. Let the filling station dispense. Once the filling station dispense, we can check, because you have DPR officials across the country. You check that you actually dispense 33,000 liters, you get paid subsidy. Tell me, if you are not paying subsidy on what you brought in through the port, who will carry it and go to Benin? Who will carry it to Cameroon? Who will carry it to Niger? Nobody. Because it won't make any sense. It will be too expensive to engage in that kind of nonsense. That's what we're suffering today, because people do not have the guts to be able to face corruption in the face and deal with it. And that is why at the AAC we have told them, this one that people are shouting, yeah, we don't agree. During the campaign, we heard the candidate of the Labour Party repeatedly say he was going to remove subsidy.
Immediately. Yeah,
the people who set up that party, that's the Nigerian Labour Congress, are staunchly against subsidy removal. The team, President Tinubu now, during the campaign, kept saying it. Whether you like, protest from today till tomorrow, I will remove it.
Exactly.
Atiku started in 2019 by saying that he was only not even going to remove, he will sell the filling station. People still voted for him. They claim to have gotten 8 million or how many million votes. That means people believed in them. Why are they shouting now? People who say we will not remove subsidy, you didn't look at them. You didn't think they were serious. You know, and now we're crying. And we who are in the opposition, who are staunchly against removing subsidy, are the people in the middle of it and fighting for you. We need to wake up as a country.
We do.
And there's no hard and fast rule about it. Until we get our priorities right, we'll keep bringing people who teach us lessons. What we're chopping now is what they say in Nigerian parlance across the street as water. We're suffering it. We're suffering it.
Okay, Mr. Ina Okobiago, we would go for a short break right now and return to discuss more. We're still discussing the fuel subsidy removal and the attendant effect. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back from that short break. We've been discussing the fuel subsidy removal and the position of the African Action Congress. We've been discussing with Ina Okobiago. He is the Secretary General of the AAC. Again, so good to have you with us here on Joyasonyelive. Fuel subsidy regime seems to have come to an end. If you see the body language of the president, for those who read body languages, it seems like he's not going to budge. The NLC, the TUC, and other pressure groups and associations had threatened a strike action that was supposed to begin tomorrow, yes. That doesn't seem to happen, as they seem to have gotten some sort of arrangement with the federal government. Now, the AAC has its stance. If you are to advise, is there anything other than your stand on going back on the fuel subsidy payment, or you can shift grounds? Is there some sort of advice you can give to this government? Now that fuel subsidy is out, these are things you have to put in place.
Thank you. I've said this before and I'm going to reiterate. The two things we think you need to do: show us a plan for what you're planning to do with our refineries. Okay. That's number one. Then go after the subsidy thieves. They know them. Anybody who has drawn subsidy since when it started, you can maybe just take it to when Jonathan came in to this time. I'm sure they are still alive. Call them. You will be shocked at how much you are able to recover from them. Once you have done that, and the current thieves in the system, they see what you have done with the people who did it in the past, they will be careful to not engage. Of course, there will still be willful minority who are not afraid of, they have no fear for consequences. As you catch them, still bring them in and teach them a lesson. That is what we think should be done. But if you want us to advise and say, okay, you have removed subsidy, the palliative, because that's what they're saying. We heard that there's an $800 million that was brought in to share. For what? Around which data? When you said brought in to share, I don't think I was part of that. So when you say share, it seems you make it sound like the rest of us will get a piece of it. That's what they made us think. They borrowed $800 million. I know that was approved before the last government left, and what they said, the childish thing they said is that they will share it for 5,000 amongst 10 million homes, Nigerian homes. Right. On what data? Where do you even have a data to bank on, to share? This is a government that has over the years been alleged, supposedly, I'm trying to be very kind with my words now, been paying
to the poorest of the poor in the country.
I've
not met a recipient. If that's what you're about to ask me, I have not met a recipient. If anything, I should ask you. This is my show. Have you met a recipient of the past social welfare?
We were sharing, right? That's what they claim to have done. In my village, at least I go there once in a while. I did not hear that anybody around my own locality got a 5,000 naira from any government. Where, if you're going to do that, around which data? Where did you get the data from? Where are their account numbers? Are you handing it cash to them? We have seen people hand cash. And once it becomes cash, it means it is fraught with corruption, just looking at it.
Right, because there's no accountability.
There's no accountability. You have not told us what you did with the last one, only for them to come give quarterly report and say they shared 30 billion. How? The same 800 million that could have gone into expanding our rail system, building of roads, getting the refineries to work and make things easy for Nigeria. Because when you tackle that, especially issues around power, you are solving problems for Nigeria. They're able to get electricity to set up cottage industry, finance renewable energy installation for them across the country to be able to run cottage industry, and then they run their lives. Do you understand? But that's not what they're doing. They're still in the agreement from yesterday where they said they called off the strike. Go and look at it. I think they're still going ahead with the sharing of the $800 million that was sourced from the World Bank. Who does that? $800 million. Apart from, you are adding to the debt that we have now incurred under the last government. You're not thinking of what 800 million can solve to make life easy for everyone else, but to share to people who probably do not even exist.
What would you like to hear when you talked about the plan for the refineries? I mean, the government had come out to say that before December, I think Port Harcourt would come on stream.
Good.
I mean, we've heard this before, so I want to know if you have this optimism.
I'm telling you, these people think you are fools. You know, they said timeline like this, it comes, it passes, nobody will hold anybody to account because they know that they are above the law, or they see themselves as above the law. I think if they began with Kaduna, I think Nigeria has the resources. There's nothing wrong with borrowing, Joy. Let us not make borrowing look like evil. Once you borrow, America is the biggest debtor the world over. Yet we still rate them as the world's leading country, right? Because any debt they incur goes into making the lives of their people better. Where it becomes a problem is when you borrow to pay salary, borrow to divert what you borrowed for. There is no commensurate actions on ground to show for what you borrowed for. That is where the problem begins. And then you now leave debts that generations will take to build.
I read a report that if you have to give every Nigerian what they owe, everyone is owing about 300,000.
I don't have.
So you owe about 300,000.
So they need to stop it. You can't keep incurring debt for me and I don't know anything about it, and it hurts.
Doesn't it give you some joy that some poorest of the poor was alleviated somehow? The debt that you owe is. Are you not human?
I've not experienced any of that. Like we've said, before you go into social security, which is not a bad thing for your people, at least all countries should do that for their own people. Where it works, they have data. You can track what you claim to have done. We do not have it. To check the loans they gave out to farmers during this Jonathan's regime, Buhari's regime. A lot of them may be written off, my dear. A lot of them will be written off. Because you take loan meant for farmers and you hand it to politicians. I also do farming. I remember that we applied for this same agric loan. We have a land. We have a farm. They visited and visited. We wanted only 1.2 billion. We were unable to get it until all this thing ended. Then you just pick the same money and give to people who do not have own a single farm anywhere and you expect it to work.
Could it be because you did not fit into the criteria?
The criteria I didn't fit into is their corrupt criteria, where you belong to, you are in the constituency of a politician who wants to show his people that he's working, and they present figures and these things are given to them. But we presented a plan. We gave a projection how we're going to repay the loan. We didn't get it, no matter what we did. Now, some of those loans have become bad loans. People collect and went to marry. People collect and did what they did, buy houses. That's not how you do it. If you want these programs to work and benefit the people for which you're doing it, if you see the concept around some of these programs are very laudable. You would think that if they implement it as described in their policy papers, this will turn Nigeria into something else. But no. When it comes to the actual implementation, they don't follow the books. They just do what they like. I don't know how much the debt is around that agric loan. The last time I read, I don't know if it's correct, don't quote me, 250 billion, just like that. I hope the figure is less than that.
I hope the figure is less than that.
What we need to do, before you go to the next question, let us reconsider the president should reconsider his stand on the subsidy regime.
Right.
It audits the process. Once you drive off the thief, the figure will come down. Then it would not be too much for government to pay. The reason they are running away from it now is because they say it is too much. But the too much you're talking about is ending up in people's pockets. What you even claim to subsidize is ending up in other countries. Isn't it easy? Why do we try to make a small problem look very complicated? Just go after the people. Who are the people? If you pay subsidy, you paid it into an account. Call them in. Prove the subsidy you received. Show us the insurance you paid on the ship that brought the fuel. C'est fini.
Okay, while we still pursue this audited account or
auditing the process,
auditing the process rather, let's talk about the fact that we see a lot of fuel scarcity here in the country, and one of the things a lot of people celebrated when the president mentioned subsidy removal and a proper deregulation of the sector was that now we would see we'll see healthy competition in the sector. Is it something you are also celebrating so that we do not see the many I mean, in the past year we saw I don't know if you suffered it.
Did he say competition?
Healthy competition.
Where is the competition coming from when the only people bringing the thing are NNPC?
Now we will not see NNPC the sole importers of refined products.
Who said that?
I'm saying that you can register.
That is
you now can go if you want to get into the oil business and get.
Really, I've not heard that. But up until like 2 hours ago, I know NNPC is still in charge. So where is the healthy competition? Because
you have not decided to get registered and go get the product.
No, when NNPC made the decision to be the sole importer of the product, why didn't people, were there no other companies with the license? What happened to their license?
I wouldn't know. What happened to their license?
So I'm trying to query the competition part they're bandying around. No competition. It's NNPC that brings it in. Other companies do not. So if you see the product in other places, those people bought it from NNPC. This is difficult. Think about it.
Well, NNPC will no longer be the sole
okay, if that is a new development.
It is a new development. So hence the deregulation of the sector.
But of course, that's what the PIB says. You have deregulated, so you open up for everybody to bring it.
Right.
Why should people be bringing in? Why can't you compel the people whom you gave licenses to set up refineries to begin to do it, or they face consequences?
That's true. You were actually talking about how the Kaduna refinery, for instance, could get working.
Apart from that, there are other major players in the industry. Let's not mention their names. But even people like Mobil, they should refine. Your job should not just be to take the oil and take abroad to go and sell. I'm sure part of the plan is to also set up a refinery. The size may not be the size of a Dangote, but set up a refinery. If you have a lot of it, that is where the competition comes in. Let the competition not be around people who import, because that's killing us. It even makes us look unserious as a country. I know we can just want to show ourselves, but why should we be dependent on fuel imported from other countries? What is wrong with us? Why can't we set up our own and make it run? It's not like, okay, the ones that are even here, repair it. If they are not working, scrap them. Let us know they are not working and sack everybody in NNPC. Because you still have people in the refineries being paid salaries.
I saw the humongous number.
It's a shame.
The amount we are still paying.
I'm telling you, let us do the
on the moribund refinery.
That is what the AAC would have done. We will not condone corruption. Give us the opportunity. We will ensure that electricity works. We outlined that in our manifesto. It is not just, everything is not around, our country is the way it is because we have built it around petroleum. There's agriculture. There's power. There are other sources of generating power and making things easy for Nigerians. Like the agriculture we're describing before this session, the agriculture can build agriculture around data, get people, farmers properly registered, make funds available for them, get extension workers to work with them, create open markets for them, so that our farmers are no longer subsistence in their approach.
Right.
Let them become commercial farmers. And because they are too small as an individual to become commercial, bring them together as cooperative. Then they are strong. If a cooperative is, say, 20 people and they have 2 hectares or 1 hectare, 2 hectares per farmer times 20 people, that's 40 hectares. That is large scale. Make financing available. Give them access to finance.
Right.
Access to good input. Good agronomic practices by extension workers. Make just market available for them. And then they sell the thing. Instead of selling in one mudu, they sell in trailers. The money comes in bulk. They are able to utilize it properly. Then you can begin to talk of developing your own country. Everything should not be around.
I mean, I listened to your principal Omoyele Showore talk very extensively about revamping the economy of Nigeria and getting our GDP to where it should run the country properly. Are you, as an opposition party, advising this government? I know he reiterated, I mean, the President Bola Tinubu reiterated during his inaugural speech, that he sees everyone as Nigeria. He sees beyond party lines, and he's open to working with other political parties. He seemed to have extended the olive branch. Are you taking it?
He has not reached out to us yet. When he does that, we'll know what to say.
What would be reaching out? Later? You
said they have means by which they can reach out. If they reach us, we'll let them know. They have not done that yet, so I'm not going to preempt them. But our stand on how this country ought to work is contained in a detailed manifesto.
Is it something you're willing to share with the government? Or
we will share it.
Come 4 years.
We will share it.
4 years.
Because of the way those things are built, our documents are built, they will find it difficult because it will stop them from pilfering into our commonwealth.
Right.
So
and you do not think that this administration wants to end or cover those loopholes?
Well, they've begun by removing subsidy without tackling the problem, the elephant in the room, which is corruption. So I don't know what to think. I would have thought that just go after corruption.
Right.
Joy, going after corruption is easy. You have a judicial system. You have law enforcement. There is EFCC. There is ICPC.
We have several.
There is the police. You have our justice system. We have very good prisons.
We do?
Yes.
Good prisons?
No, when I say good, I mean there are plenty prisons. And you send them to jail.
It's wonderful to have you. And I went so seamlessly. I wish we had more time to discuss, but it's been very interesting. He's the Secretary General, African Action Congress. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you, Joy, for having me. I appreciate this.
And this is it for Joyasonyelive today. We'll be back tomorrow with so much more. Do have a wonderful evening.